amateur.
Sounds good.
Hey.
Hello, hello.
Cool.
Are you okay, like, in terms of hearing me? Well, can you hear me
When I talk just now?
I mean, I can hear you just through the headphone, like, not in the headphones, but outside of the
I
mic.
pretty much can,
Okay.
too. Let's just go with it.
Yes.
All right, let's get one last donation in here. $100 donation from Megafrost, who says, Blaster Master is one of my favorite games of all time, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody demolish my speedrun.
Sure. All right. Let's get this race started. So we're going to get started in... Oh, up.
You guys set? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck,
So welcome
gentlemen.
everyone to Blaster Master. This is an incredible NES game by Sunsoft. It's got a great look, a great sound. It's actually kind of more of a Metroidvania game than you would think. It's a very open world exploration, but you do need to clear one area after the other. So it's kind of linear in that regard. And we'll be walking you through just what each one of these players is doing as they go.
Yeah, so to get into some game mechanics here, when they go through screen transitions between rooms, they're going to be pausing and unpausing the game to make it load the next screen and skip the scrolling animation, which saves between 3 and 11 frames when they do it in the tank sections, depending on where, and then 15 in the overhead sections they go to find bosses. This is also a pretty notoriously laggy game, too, especially with enemy sprites on screen, so they're going to be killing as many enemies as they can without having to slow down to do so in order to reduce lag.
Yep. The really cool thing about this game is that there are two distinct kind of play styles. One is the side-scroller area you see right now, and then the other is this overhead area, which they're headed into right now.
Yeah,
Now, in the overhead areas, there are two different ways of dealing damage. One is is with your bullets, and the other is with your grenades. They're going to be at a boss before too long, and for most of the bosses, well, generally, grenades just do way more damage, so where possible, you want to use your grenades as much as possible. And we'll be seeing that for the bosses.
Because ordinarily you can collect power-ups to increase the power of your gun, but you lose that when you take damage, and they take a lot of intentional damage to get through these stages faster. So
Each of the players will be hitting these heads here because while most of the drops in the game are luck-based, there are some fixed drops, and that includes those two, which drop them some triple missiles for later.
Okay, so this first boss is pretty easy. Generally, they can kill it in 2 passes, basically by mashing grenades. But there is a bit of RNG with its movement that can sometimes slow them down. And we were off to a really good start.
This is a really close race. Let's give a quick round of applause for that.
Yeah. So every time they defeat a boss, they gain a new power-up, mostly for the tank. In this case, it's the Hyper, I believe.
Yep, Hyper Beam.
It increases the damage of the tank's cannon by 33%, and that's required in order to kill a mini-boss coming up in probably about 15 seconds here.
Yep. As we get into Area 2, which is going to be very shortly, we talked a bit about kind of lag management. Now, each time they sort of they know where each one of the enemies is going to spawn on screen. However, there is a luck element as to which direction the enemy that spawns will fly. So if they wait too long before shooting an enemy as it appears on screen, the enemy may dodge the player's bullet. So what they want to do is shoot as early as possible so that just as soon as the enemy comes on screen, they take it out. Otherwise, if they miss, then they will suffer a bit of a penalty just from lag.
Yeah. And while we're talking about enemy spawns too, it's worth noting that when they use that pause trick in order to skip screen scrolling animations, that also changes the spawn behavior of enemies, just because if you let the screen scroll, they would spawn during that scroll instead of right after the unpause.
Now, I want to talk a bit about these health drops you're seeing from enemies. You're seeing that sometimes they're dropping a little P icon. What that you can see in the lower left, each player has a power level, and that's simply their health. Some enemies are also dropping H's, and that will add to their hover count, which you can kind of see right above it. They don't have the hover upgrade just yet, but they are technically accruing hover kind of ammo. However, in this category, which is any % with death warps are a very, very important thing. And when you do use a death warp, you lose whatever hover you have accumulated up to that point.
Right, along with any special weapon ammo.
Right. Yep. So accumulating hover ammo is not too important at this part. And really neither is power health, because while certainly dying is always a concern, it's not much of a risk in most of the side-scroller in the game until you get to the late game.
Yeah, because in a lot of cases, taking a death, I mean, even kind of a unplanned one, will only mean like a couple seconds lost, because they need to die at various points anyway in order to set up the death warps, so just an unintentional death just counts against that in advance.
Now, this is a bit of a mazy game. Of course, they know exactly where to go, but you can see how they enter. This is unbelievably close, by the way. You can see that they are entering these little doorways which take them to overhead areas. However, on the side-scrolling areas, there's actually several of these per level, so it's very easy to get lost on a first playthrough. They're doing whatever they can because they're coming in with a lot of health. They're doing what they can to save time by way of damage abuse. So they freely walk across spikes, knowing that they won't, that they have the health to spare.
And some routes through this stage too will take an intentional death right outside the boss's room too.
So this is the first time we'll see the pause glitch for bosses. It works on some bosses, not all. What they're going to be doing is shooting a grenade, pausing at the exact moment they... Oh, UA's having some trouble. But what they're doing here is they pause right after the grenade landed, so the grenade continues to deal damage during the pause on only some bosses. And then they wait specifically, nice job guys, they wait specifically for a particular audio cue, which tells them that they can then stop the pause. Because otherwise, I mean, you could just wait with that grenade exploding in a pause, during a pause for as long as you want. But you listen for that audio cue, and then you unpause to finish off the boss.
Yeah, and that glitch works because when they pause the game, it actually does not disable either collision detection for the grenade or the boss's weak point. And that works on the 2nd, 4th, 6th, and 7th bosses.
And so, like Puexel said, after every boss you get a power-up of some kind. The first one, which we received before, was the Hyper Beam, and now we have the Crusher Beam, which ups your damage. The 2 beams increase your damage from the default of 4 to 6, and then the most recent beam brings you to 8. So not only do they allow you to do more damage, they also allow you to clear these breakable blocks that you see on previous screens.
Yeah, which is required in order to get into Area 3.
Now there's some interesting lag management strategies coming into Area 3. One of the most interesting things is that on this screen right here, they're going to be killing enemies simply so that they can hope that one drops an H power-up. If they do, then a spawner... Look at Scavenger and Shining Dragoon screens right now. The spawner at the top at the beginning of the screen did not spawn for Shining Dragoon simply because he was able to spawn an H power-up on the previous screen. There was a sprite limitation there, and because that extra H power-up existed, it was just too much for the game to handle, and so it spawned one fewer enemy on the screen which followed, which allowed him to navigate it more quickly and with less lag.
Yeah, that's a good use of sprite overload. There's a very bad one in Area 5 they're going to go to as much as they can to avoid.
Coming up shortly as well, there's an interesting screen manipulation technique where they are going to jump in certain spots to screen the scroll as far up as possible so that the enemies on the bottom of the screen don't load. And like you see those tanks there on Shining Dragoon and Scavenger screens, once they jump a little bit, just like that, they will not be spawning the tanks at the bottom of the screen. There should be tanks there, but they're not because of the way they jump. And so that also is one more method of lag management.
Yeah, you might also notice with some of these red turrets too, they sometimes despawn themselves after dropping their bombs because of that too.
Now I want to start talking about death warps now because it's very important to know as we approach the next overhead screen as well as the boss. So the way death warps in this game can just be to save time, or in some cases you can actually, it requires it in order to make this particular any % route works. You have 4 continues in this game to use. It's not infinite continues or unlimited continues. You have 4 which you need to use, and they're actually a bit of a resource because the speedrun uses all 4 of them, and if it had more, then it would use those continues as well. The way it works is that once you game over in an area, you first need to you actually need to prepare for the death warp first by taking damage in ideal spots and then dying not for the purpose of the death warp, but just so that you run out of lives as you approach when you actually want to do the death warp. So you run yourself out of lives before you actually want to do the death warp. You finish the boss and get to the spot where you actually want to complete the death warp, and then you go ahead with the death warp, and that's used for multiple purposes.
And then part of the route they're following for the Area 3 death warp is that they're just taking the most direct path possible through this long downward scrolling section and just running through all the enemies and spikes, but then they're going to take a death shortly afterwards in order to get that death out of the way, but also to refill their health for the boss.
Yep, so when you see them dying coming up, it is very much intended. And this is the ideal spot to do it. There are a few, it's kind of interesting because each player does have his unique approaches to the death warp. There are certain spots where some players may do it and others may not, or some may decide to adapt to the marathon with marathon strats, but it's interesting.
Okay. So we're starting the Area 3 boss here, which is a series of 16 cubes that shoot lasers. Their spawn points are all fixed, but there is a little variation in their movement patterns. But if they're really on it as far as killing them after they spawn, it won't really matter.
Oh.
That's unfortunate.
So unfortunately, Scav loses his lead there. He had a lot of trouble with the boss. Right now, Shining Dragoon continues the death warp, so you're going to see the continue screen coming up here very shortly, which basically takes him to the beginning of the area, so he doesn't have to traverse, take the time for all that travel time. He just loads right into the
and the way they're doing this too is that if you get out of the tank and then fall 4 tile lengths or more, you will die when you land.
So you see now that their hover bar exists, and so any hover, because they all death warped, any hover energy they accumulated is now lost, and they need to start building it up now. It's very important to start right now because they're going to be using it very, very soon. They're going to need 3 hover by the time they get to the beginning of the screen, beginning of the game, because the way this game is laid out, if you imagine the very, very starting point as sort of the midpoint, the game is actually, that's the center of the game. It's not the start of the game, it's kind of the center of the general layout, where areas 2, 3, 8, and 7 are to the right of it, and then 4, 5, and 6 are to the left. So they really are just going right to the very, very beginning of the game, where they can use their hover to progress.
That's where the Metroid element comes in again. They're accumulating new powers that allow them to reach new areas to continue making progress.
This is one spot where some players may be dying in order to respawn a particular turret, which allows a hover drop. So Shining Dragoon is able to get that hover, and then he immediately dies right after. So we're going to have a small swing here because some players are taking the time for that death abuse, whereas others are going to continue. But we'll lose that time later because they'll need to die later on instead of earlier here.
So this part that they're on now is unfortunately the most random part of the any % with death warps run because of losing their hover fuel when they death warp. They need to now farm it off of either the turrets in that vertical section or these sine wave flyers here in order
Feasel-
to get up to 3 hover.
Feasel's getting some really, really bad luck, unfortunately. He does get his third, but UA is currently in the lead with Shining Dragoon right behind. But like we mentioned before, Shining Dragoon did lose a bit of time temporarily because of his death abuse, which he'll make up later. So Feasel goes ahead and climbs that series of mountains and cliffs, while Scavenger is right behind as well.
Okay. So coming up here is going to be the biggest sequence break in the run, because the power-up you get from Area 4 is actually something that's only used once, and it's a key that lets you open a gate that you need to get to Area 5. But they're going to be using a glitch called the reverse door entry glitch, which is basically just where they get out of the tank and then go through a door while facing backwards to reverse the door scrolling animation. And that lets them just glitch through that gate and get into Area 5 without really going through the sewer maze in Area 4 or fighting the boss.
And it's used again right here now. This is going to be very, very important, because look at the level design right now. If you imagine basically every door skip moves the entire level layout and its hitboxes over 1 square. So if you look at the level layout, there's this series of blocks, and next to it is an open tile where if you shift the level over 3 spots, the game thinks you're in the kind of water area. So look at Feasel's screen. The game thinks, even though he's on the black, the game thinks he's in the water area. So he lands on it there. He pauses and unpauses to kind of correct the repositioning.
Yeah, because pausing and unpausing will just completely resync the positioning data and just basically remove the effects of that glitch.
Yeah, and then the game realizes you're underneath the blocks and you can progress.
And then doing that lets them get into the main part of Area 5 without having to death abuse again in order to get the tank back and use the crusher to clear those blocks. So for this swimming section here, these swimming fish enemies are extremely laggy, so they're going to be trying to kill them, but they have a lot of health, so it just kind of depends on their movement patterns if they get a good chance to kill them or not.
Yep. So just to break it down right now, Shining Dragoon does have a small lead over UA, but they're very, very close. And then Feasel is shortly behind them, and Scavenger shortly behind him.
So anyway, they're all going to be attempting a frame-perfect glitch on the Area 5 boss, which is generally considered the most difficult in the game. That was a pretty significant discovery by, I believe, Pixel K about a year or so ago, where they're going to try to basically exit the boss's room on the frame that the game loads the boss, and then, well, let's see if any of them get it.
This is really, really important. It's a 1-frame trick, so let's hope it's a big, big time savings if anyone can get it. Unfortunately not. But we've got 2 more chances coming up. So the reason this boss is so luck-based is that it walks around left to right and shoots these bubbles which block your attack. Not only that, because he is shifting, let's see if Feasel gets it. Oh, we left a little too early, so he didn't get it. But yeah, these bubbles block your attack. So you need to be strafing left and right to try and keep up with him. Meanwhile, he's blocking all your bullets, and you can't shoot grenades. Oh, he got it! All right. Nice Feasel. He's going to be catching up. He might be right. He's going to be catching up with Shining Dragoon here, making up for 30 seconds.
Yeah. So getting that glitch will cause the boss to spawn in the previous room, and it will not move or attack, so they just run up, spam grenades, and kill it. I mean, actually, that is not technically the fastest possible kill of that boss, but it's the most consistent.
You can see there's a 2-second difference now, whereas there was about 30 seconds before. So really well done on Feasel's part.
Yeah. So then the other 3 that didn't get that glitch were actually using a different version of the pause glitch, because you can't just one-shot the crab with the pause glitch, but when you do have the game paused, the boss's invincibility frames will still expire, so they can use that to get more damage in before it starts moving.
Now, I do really even though we're past it, it's so important to explain just how it works because it's so interesting. Basically, you leave the room, the game thinks that you go back to the room above, and then you're able to kind of... It's still trying to spawn the boss, but you kind of move to the left screen to the next kind of screen over, but the boss no longer sees you, I believe, so he's not doing anything. He's no longer strafing or shooting bubbles at you, so you're free to just pummel him with grenades. But yeah, so now we're into Area 6. Area 5, that boss did give you the, it allows you to kind of to swim through water more adeptly, whereas usually you just sink. And we're into Area 6 now. This does have ice physics.
Yeah.
When you jump, the ice physics don't really affect you much, but it really messes with your acceleration and deceleration. While on the ground.
Unlike in the Ninja Gaiden games, ice physics are pretty bad in this game as far as the speed run.
So yep, it's really, this stage is pretty standard, I think, and pretty straightforward. It's just really dealing with those kind of ice platforms, which is the challenge. Oh, that's a huge time loss for UA. That's very, very big. He was in the lead, and unfortunately, he's going to lose a significant amount of time for that. But we'll see just how he kind of ends up once he matches up with the other players. That's one of the worst places you can fall.
It's because of the ice that these jumps are really difficult.
So Shining Dragoon is in the lead right now, with Feasel close behind, actually, and then UA and Scav are pretty close to one another. As we get into the Area 6 overhead area.
Yeah, these vertical rooms are a lot more difficult than they look, by the way, too, just because of the enemies and the ice physics. And if you get hit while in midair, you do kind of lose some control over your jump trajectory, too. So it's very easy to just fall and miss your jump target if you get hit.
So as we get to the Area 6 boss, it is going to be another one of those pause glitch bosses. Again, we were able to skip Area 5 because of the key glitch that Puexel mentioned earlier, and so we don't have to deal with that boss at all. It's a green frog. I think, is it that frog you can? Is it your frog, like your pet frog?
Yeah.
Okay. You can see there. You can watch when the other players get to it. There's a large wall of breakable blocks. You can actually break those blocks and then jump into them, pause and unpause, and it respawns all the blocks. So you can actually use them as platforms to your benefit.
And in this area, too, the spikes hurt boxes doesn't extend all the way to the bottom tile set row, so you can actually just walk over that safely.
We haven't really pointed out, so look at UA's screen here, you can see the breakable block and how pausing and unpausing can be used to your benefit. So we haven't really talked too much about the sub-weapons of this game. There are 3 sub-weapons. Triple missiles, homing missiles, and lightning.
Yeah.
The lightning is largely useless, and you can see every time they pause and unpause, you can see the different options at the bottom.
Yeah, because the lightning has too much randomness to be useful outside of TAS.
So once again, if you want to see the pause glitch here, you can check out Shining Dragoon, and he gets it immediately.
Yeah. But this boss has a pretty notorious glitch, which unfortunately just happened to Shining there. Well, not very badly, though, called the zombie boss glitch. Just this boss, his arms and attacks generate so much lag that it can sometimes make the game bypass a check to see if the boss is still alive or not. And if that it's not even really fully understood both what causes it and how to correct it, but it seems to be the case that if you mash the start button to pause and unpause, that can make the boss finish dying faster. A pretty clean kill on Feasel's part. It's lagging a bit, but it's not still attacking him at least. UA had a pretty good one.
So because of the way the sequence of levels is designed, they're now going to, they're supposedly going to have to be doing that key skip backwards, but they don't have the key, so they can't, and there's no door to work off of. So instead, they're going to do another death abuse. If they did not have access to this death abuse, I believe that they wouldn't be able to do the key glitch at all because you can't go backwards.
The full Area 4 skip is only possible in the category that allows death warps, just because there's no way to get back through that gate without the key.
So, Shining Dragoon did execute that, and now I kind of outlined earlier the way that the game is designed overall. So he's coming out of this area to the left of the starting area, and now he's going to be going to the right, back to the right, where the remainder of the game will be seen. The boss that we just defeated gave you the first of 2 climbing upgrades. So they're able to now climb on walls, but only certain walls. The second upgrade kind of climb, if you imagine sort of a ledge, the second upgrade allows you to kind of climb down a ledge. If you just fall off, it'll let you climb down. And this one will allow you to climb sort of off of the easier corners.
Yeah. I mean, this is basically wall 1 lets you climb walls, and then wall 2 lets you go on ceilings, and then also round corners to get onto ceilings, too. It's a double-edged sword, too. I mean, it's required in order to be able to complete the game, but it does unfortunately, also make the platforming more difficult than it should be in some cases, just because you have no means to turn it off when it wouldn't actually be useful.
There is a bit of a trek to Area 7, so during that time, we'd love to hear some donations.
All right, thank you. We have an $80 donation from Eric and family, which says, "Hello, Shining Dragoon. It's me, Eric, your brother. I sold your NES in order to make this $80 donation. The family wishes you luck because if you do not win the race, we will disown you. I also wish luck to the other runners because you're going to need it."
They did make a little minor detour to pick up another hover power up on their way through this track too, just because there's several places in Area 7 where having hover fuel lets them save basically more time than they spent getting the power up.
You can see there the climb upgrade being used. Yep, Skybills, any other donations?
Absolutely. We have a $50 donation from Jem Falking that says, "My grandmother lost her year-long battle with cancer last September, and I await the day when no one has to lose their loved ones from this terrible disease. Thought the most appropriate time would be to donate during the Blaster Master race, as I just started speedrunning this game again myself. Shining Dragoon, I'm coming for you." Shoutouts to the runners of the Blaster Master race, and also my friends Darnex42 and Radioactive Rat. Good luck on Lester the Unlucky run later tonight. Put my money towards saving the Yoshis in Mario Maker and killing the animals in Super Metroid.
So here we are in Area 7, a very popular piece of the soundtrack. There's a lot of travel time in this one, and a lot of screens where manipulating the flyers and shooting them as early as possible is very important. And also these areas of breakable blocks where you need to use your new upgrade, your climbing upgrade, to manipulate it properly, to travel through properly.
The stage also has a glitch that was previously thought to be TAS only until probably like a month or two ago, when a runner named I Love Mario started using it in real-time runs.
Yeah, it's now been upgraded from TAS only to absolutely ridiculous.
Yes, because there's a piece of it that's frame perfect, and this is very late into a run that has a lot of RNG in certain meaningful ways in parts of it. And if they go for it and fail, it will soft lock the game. But it saves, I think it's like 30 seconds or so?
35, I believe.
35 seconds if they get it, because it skips a pretty it's an out-of-bounds glitch that skips a pretty significant part of the tank section of Area 7. Just in case any of them don't go for it, it's based on using the reverse door scrolling glitch 5 times in order to just desync the map so much that it starts loading other rooms, and you can use that to fall out of the tank and get into the boss tunnel.
One really cool thing about this game is that as you progress, besides the key, most of the upgrades that you get from killing bosses are useful throughout the game. I mean, obviously you've got the beams, but even just hover, not only is the hover used to just progress to the next area of the game, but it's also very useful just for small time savings throughout. If you watch, I think, well, in certain, especially in Area 7, it's especially useful for just very small time savings. And the climb upgrade, the same is true for that. For example, you just saw Shining Dragoon, rather than jump, he was able to use the climbing upgrade to climb up that wall. There's going to be, as we get to the overhead section, there's going to be a couple lava skips, which are really, really interesting. They're very important to nail, as if you miss them. So watch Shining Dragoon's screen here. He does get the
Scavenger's going for the skip.
He gets the second. Very nice. Hold your applause just yet. There's a few more of those to go. The first 2 are the hardest. Oh, okay. It sounds like Shining Dragoon is... Okay, he's going for it. And then the 4th is a gimme. Let's make sure he gets it. If so, Scavenger's going for the trick.
All right.
Shiny Dragoon makes it, but now I want to see if Scavenger nails this. One frame trick.
Yeah!
Oh my God! Look at that. One frame trick.
Yes.
Amazing. He's right there with everybody else. Look at that. Oh, but that's okay.
Uh-huh.
One life to live, one breath to give. All right, he gets the. I really wanted to pull through with this. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So-
remember, if he'd have failed that, his game would have been soft locked
Yeah.
because he would have been stuck out of bounds.
Yeah, you would just be like, stuck in a wall, basically, unable to do anything. Scavenger does finish the 7th boss and is following up with the death abuse. This boss is susceptible to the pause glitch. The thing to know about it is that you should stand above the boss so that it can just manipulate him a little bit further.
Yeah, because its hitbox is kind of weird. I mean, I think it's a little below its mouth, actually, and if you miss your first chance to hit it, it shoots a fireball at you that does 2 damage, and the pause glitch actually does work on you, too. So it's if you're kind of slow in setting it up, you might get a double KO, and then...
Oh, I'm just so stoked Scav was able to get that trick. Okay, so we are heading into Area 8 here, the final area of the game. And I mentioned before that for the most part, the side-scroller areas, health isn't really much of an issue. Not the case for Area 8. Area 8 is extremely difficult. There are a lot of odd spawns. There's a couple of rooms where you need to deal with very finicky climbing mechanics. And it's just very, very difficult overall. And at this point, I just want to take a brief break to mention what the PAL run of this game is like. Because right now, the runners here have, again, done all of the 8 areas except for Area 4, which they were able to skip by doing by doing the key glitch we already mentioned. But in a PAL run, there are 2 glitches which turn this 32-minute run into a 5-minute run. Is that right?
Something like
so,
that.
It's a huge time savings there. Because you're able to do zips, and if you look at Shining Dragoon's screen there, he needed to use the new climb upgrade he got to be able to kind of ascend and descend along the ceiling so that he didn't have to, so that he could basically make it to Area 8. But in the PAL version, you're able to pause and unpause, and if you time your unpause and follow it up with a 1-frame jump just right, then you're able to basically fly as
If I can
the
interrupt
small
for a
guy.
second, too.
Oh, yeah.
What we really don't want to have happen here, by the way, is to get hit by one of those flyers while they're on the ceiling, because that will cause them to fall and have to go back and get on the ceiling again.
Yep. All we've got left is this very, very difficult Area 8, and especially this next room that Shining Dragoon's coming up on
This is pretty much the hardest room in the game for the tank.
And the reason for that is, it looked simple to me at first, but then they explained it to me. For one thing, the caterpillars are extremely annoying to hit, but also the climbing mechanic. You're not trying to climb when you climb. Basically, the game forces you to climb. So as you kind of approach those spikes, sometimes the game will just make you climb, and so you want to jump a little earlier than you would think. And so that just makes some precise platforming combined with very tight shots that you need to make.
That jump that Scavenger just made is very, very hard to do without hover, and because of death warps making you lose your hover fuel, it's very lucky to get a hover drop from an enemy on the way to Area 8.
Oh, this is so unbelievably close between the 2 through 4. Shining Dragoon does have a significant lead, right? Oh! Scavenger takes a death, unfortunately. Shining Dragoon does have a pretty significant lead, but if you handle the last couple bosses incorrectly, you can lose a lot of time if you suffer a death.
And keep in mind that they have used all 4 of their continues as part of the death abuse route too, so unfortunately if any of them runs out of lives, then they'll have to forfeit because they won't be able to continue again.
So the pause glitch is a little bit different for this penultimate boss. You can't just throw your grenade and pause. You actually need to kind of pause and unpause. And the reason for that is it just doesn't work through the pause. However, you're able to take advantage of his invulnerability frames by timing your pauses so that he takes damage from the grenade. You pause and his invulnerability frames run out, and then you unpause. So I'm going to give some quiet time here for Shining Dragoon.
Yeah.
If he misses a mash, he might die.
he's sitting inside the final boss's hitbox and mashing as hard as he can to basically keep the boss permanently in hit stun.
For a long time.
Because then he's not taking damage. But this boss has the most health of any enemy in the game, and he needs to keep that mash going, or else he might die. All right.
Congratulations, Shining Dragoon.
And time for him. You can kind of tell how the boss's health is going by when its shield breaks, too.
Oh, so close! Feasel takes it over UA just barely. Less than half a second. And Scavenger right behind is finishing up right now. He gets it.
All right.
Great race, everyone.
All right.
That was unbelievable. And even, yeah, if nothing else, Scav, you were able to show off the glitch, and that was amazing. Really, what's that? Oh, thank you, sorry. That was a crazy race. Now, if this game looked fun to you, there's actually going to be a tournament coming up this spring. These tournaments in the speedrunning community have been extremely successful so far, some of which have had well over 50 entrants, and a lot of which are just learning the game specifically for that tournament. So if that sounds fun to you and you want to just kind of get into a game, try out Blaster Master. It's a hard run with a lot of interesting glitches, but it can be really rewarding, and you can really kind of have a lot of fun in these tournaments and get to know people in the speedrunning community through something like that. So check that out. Feasel is running them. Feasel, is there anywhere they can go for more information, or will you be posting that with time? Well, is there anywhere they can go for more information on the tournament, or will you be posting that at some time? Okay, Feasel's got a page on Challenge, but more information about that tournament will be announced as it's available.
Let's have one more round of applause for the runners for this awesome race, too. And very thanks to everybody for watching.
Yeah, very thanks.
Very thanks.
Also, how about one more round of applause for these fantastic commentators, Puexel and Blackie. Awesome job, guys. Awesome race, guys. Thank you so much. And welcome back to AGDQ 2016. I'm Skyvilles. And we are about to go into Battletoads with TMR coming up next. That's going to be awesome. So a few more last-minute Blaster Master donations that I wanted to get in. $20 from Skunkrocker. Yo, I just wanted to thank you.